And a very warm welcome to the 73rd Security Thought Leadership webinar. And for those of you who join regularly, you know that we hold these webinars on Tuesdays and Thursdays at this time. And the idea of thought leadership is we critique what's going on, we debate what's going on today. And the idea of that debate and that thinking and that critique is to create ideas for a better type of security tomorrow. So the idea is not to solve the world's problems today, but maybe to challenge and think differently about what some of the issues are and how we might begin to think about them as we move forward. And today is an interesting topic, done a little bit differently. Now, in the past webinars, we've heard about the challenges of delivering security services across domains. And by domains, I mean across offices, across areas, across countries, across regions, and some of the implications of doing that well. Now, one of the issues that's cropped up is that this word consistent, we need to get consistent security to get good security. And we've been hearing, of course, that during COVID-19, a whole host of issues have been generated about what makes that difficult. Some of them building on some of the issues that have long established anyway. So we'll be debating these today. And here's why we're going to be doing it a bit differently. We've invited three panelists, and at this very second, Ben Surd is busily dealing with a crisis and will hope to join us at any minute, but hopefully he'll still make it. But we've specifically chosen people from different parts of the world. Ben from the Netherlands, we've got Alfred from Tanzania, and we've got Janusz from Poland. And in a minute, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. And I think you'll find this interesting, actually. I think you'll find it a little bit different, because we're going to be talking about some of these issues from parts of the world that very rarely get discussed and get examined. Very interesting, I have to say. I've been speaking to both our panelists before we came on air. So without further ado, what I'll do is then I'll let them introduce themselves. Once they've done that, I will then ask them to make their opening statements, and then we'll come to you, the audience, and ask you for some questions. So please get your questions in early. It's a big topic, this. Let's examine these issues, get some ideas. A lot of audience participation today, given we've got just the two panelists. So let's start off then and go to Poland first. And Janusz, introduce yourself, please.
Sure thing, sure thing, Martin. A very good morning, afternoon, and evening, depending where you are. My name is Janusz. I'm the regional security manager at Mars, working across Central Europe, based in Poland. 16 years of experience in security industry, more than 10 years in the managerial roles. So basically, what we do in our global security team is protection of Mars people, product reputation. So we are also making sure our product is well secured, and also we fight against counterfeit. But I'm very much also involved in the guarding services, which is kind of a I would say big topic now, especially during the COVID-19, but we will talk in more details about this later on. So that's all about me. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Janusz. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, excellent. Let's go to Tanzania then and get Alfred to introduce himself. Alfred, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Alfred, this is Alfred Eli. Fairly new in the security industry, about 5 years worth of experience, started in sales, doing security sales, and moved to operations. Currently, I'm the Chief Security Officer here for Unilever Tanzania. I ensure basically the safety of Unilever assets in Tanzania. I have about 4 factories running, making sure that they're all safe. I basically ensure the security of the assets in terms of green leaf. And when I say green leaf, at any point, I mean tea, green tea that hasn't been processed. But I also ensure that we curb the illegal logging that happens here. We have a huge, vast forest. And also, basically, we ensure safety of also processed tea that is not stolen, because that it's very expensive here. And at any point of time, when a kilo is stolen, then it's a huge loss. So in short, that is me. And I forgot to say hi, but good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are.
Alfred, thank you so much. Great introduction. Well, as you can see, a little bit different today. Very much looking forward to do this. Don't forget, you've got the question and answer button, audience, at the bottom of your screen. If you get your questions in early, let's have a discussion what's going about this topic. But let's set the context now and ask Janusz to give his opening statement. Janusz, over to you, your opening statement, please.
Right, thank you, Martin. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the world as we knew it. So this also includes security services and the ways we protect the business in the new normal world. So personally, for me, pandemic also proved the big importance of security services, especially when it comes, frontline personnel, so the security guards, especially in the early phase of coronavirus, when where our security guards played an essential role in preventing spread of the virus. And of course, we also had to deal with a lot of challenges of delivering services. So I decided to share with you the three of the areas we were focused the most, making sure the service is well organized. So in first place, we had to manage the fear of the coronavirus infection itself among our security services. So I'm talking about communication and well-being staff, just to make sure they do understand the risk around the coronavirus and the measures that we prepared for them, making sure and ensuring maximum safety and security. The other thing is the changing ways of working and behavior routines, procedures, adapting hygiene regime, rewriting post orders to address social distancing, which is quite difficult in this area, especially when it comes, physical intervention with the suspect people or persons who are, who committed the crime. And last but not least, it's the increased cost of security services for frontline officers covering COVID-19 tasks. So this is also related with the extra cost of, special uniforms and the risk around the infection and the social security. So these were my top three challenges, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from Alfred and maybe from somebody from the audience about their thoughts. And any feedback is more than welcome. So over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting. We'll come back on some of those points in a minute. Let's go to Alfred now. And Alfred, your opening statement, your thoughts on this topic, Alfred.
Well, to me, COVID has been very challenging two ways. First, in terms at the national level, but also in terms from the office perspective. I come from a country where we say we do not have corona at all, and people are moving freely from place to place with no face masks, no anything. But on the other hand, I work for an organization which is headquartered overseas, and to them, we still have corona is still available. So actually, for example, now we're on the fourth tier. So it's a little bit contradictory, because when I step out of the office premises, no corona, life goes on as usual. But the moment I step back in the office area, boom, corona. So it's very contradictory at the same time. But I look up at the challenges that come up, quite a few, and I think we can agree we can have a ton of different challenges depending on exactly where you are. I think Janusz mentioned communications. Definitely, it's something that needs to be consistent on a timely manner, and if anything, honestly, on an honesty basis. Something else that I'd say that came up as a challenge. Most of the organizations have the BCPs, business continuity programs, but I don't think any organization has ever practiced a BCP involving a pandemic. This is something totally new to everybody, and it came as regardless of how prepared organizations were. I think this was totally different. But I also look at I mentioned national level of government restrictions. As I said, once I step out of this place, there's no corona. And once I get back to the office, there is corona. So I think it's very contradictory. But at the same time, we look at the levels. We look at the risk rating levels. In 1 minute, it's orange. 1 minute, it's amber. 1 minute, it's green. So it changed the fluidity that changes. It's so quick. And at times, it might be actually confusing before you realize it. But at the same time, one point I think I'd like to mention is in terms of leadership. It is, how would I put it? The leadership, how do you keep employees motivated? How do you keep everybody motivated at this point of time when, you know, for example, us in the security personnel, we are the front force. We have people dying, people have relatives dying. So it's very, very bad. And I think at some point of time, if we don't have good leadership, then it's a problem, and an organization might end up succumbing and failing just because of having poor leadership. So I think also that is a very huge key. Thank you.
Alfred, fantastically interesting. Just one point of clarification. So in the country then, are people dying? I mean, is it clear there is a virus problem that's being denied, or do you not see there's a virus problem when you leave work?
Well, currently we don't see a virus. Previously, there was cases, but as of right now, let me tell you, to put it in perspective, we had a soccer match just about maybe 2 weeks ago, and the stadium was filled with 60,000 people. And if people were dying, we'd hear about it, but nothing. So that's why I say it's very contradictory.
Very
from my point.
Yeah, I mean, and so just to be clear, the hospitals aren't overburdened. There's no crisis in the hospitals?
Not at all. Maybe let me tell you, we're about 7,000 employees where I work at here. And we've only had one case, and this was way back maybe in July or June, and we've never had another case at all. And I'm in a plantation, so you can imagine how that is. And most of the 7,000 employees, so it's about 6,500 people who pick the green leaf, people who pick the tea. So they actually, in terms of educational understanding actually of the corona is not very high. So they will still sit next to each other. They will not observe the social distance, but it's still not here.
Well, that is amazing. I didn't know. Just to set context, Janusz, what's the context of the virus in Poland right now?
Well, so we see the virus for sure. The numbers shows perfectly where we are, and that we are in the middle of the crisis. Also, when it comes to the number of the free beds in our hospitals, as well as you know, the number of the medical staff that is required, and they are still, you know, missing. And this is a huge problem at the moment, which, you know, impacts all sectors of the business. So it's a huge case at the moment. So everybody has, you know, to adjust their businesses or even change their businesses to, you know, to stay, you know, alive when it comes to business operations. So indeed, it's quite a dramatic situation at the moment, and it's quite different to the situation Alfred expressed in his country.
Yeah, I mean, incredible, absolutely incredible. Well, look, this is the purpose of doing these webinars. But look, let me stick with you for a second then, Janusz. We've got a question from Dennis Shep, who's based in Canada and a regular commentator on thought leadership circles.
Good stuff.
And he's looking at whether there are new opportunities for private security given COVID-19. What would be your experience in Poland? And then I'll come to Alfred, wondering whether there could possibly be any difference at all. But let me come to you first, Janusz. Opportunity in the private sector over there?
Yes, indeed. What I spotted that most of the security companies also invest in the training programs for the frontline security officers. So it means also to equip them with the special uniforms, and as well as with the equipment like for measuring temperature. From other hand, the technology and the digitalization forces them to invest in, I would say, technical solutions like self-temperature kiosks that are installed around the country. So we don't need anymore, a person measuring the temperature, but there are, self-kiosk that they can do it, for everybody and very quickly. So I believe that the technology solutions was I think the key driver for the security companies to invest and to offer to the clients. Because
yeah, just so I'm clear, sorry to interrupt you, you just said something really interesting there. So you have kiosks where people can go along and get tested. Where are these held? Are they in towns or are they?
No, I mean in you know, in the workplaces. So you know, next to the reception or next to the gatehouse. So you have a you know, kind of a panel with you know, camera screen and a tool to measure your temperature. So it just shows you the current temperature, and if you know the result of the measurement is higher as we said, then there is, you know, kind of alert, and you know, there is a protocol to be followed in such situations.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Okay, let me stop you there and come to Alfred. Alfred, I assume that in terms of opportunities for the private security sector, the answer is no, because there is no problem in the country. Or are our companies getting more concerned and taking on more security staff?
Yeah, I would say no, but that would be a quote unquote, because again, we have a lot of multinational organizations here. And as I said, most of them are headquarters overseas, whereby Corona is still there. So yes, there are opportunities in terms of technology right now. For example, with my company here, we are using technology in terms of cameras to ensure that employees abide by the social distancing rules, for example. So we do call outs through the control room. We see people not doing social distances, then they are called out, and after some time they could be given you know, warnings or stuff like that. But I think that would be the key in terms of out of security. I see opportunities in terms of trading. These MNOs are still buying a lot of masks, a lot of sanitizers. Just the numbers that I see here at my organization on a monthly basis, almost 30 to 50,000 masks monthly that we need to buy. So that's a huge area. But another thing, based on the challenge that we have, of course, with the Corona, the COVID, especially in the beginning for us, we see mental lapses. A lot of our security forces are up front during this war. I would say safety should have been up front, but we have security in the forefront. And, you know, so we come across a lot of, especially as I mentioned in the beginning, we came across a lot of Corona cases, and at some point of time, we just crack. So in terms of psychologists and all those, I think those are opportunities that people from overseas could come in and bring in over here in Tanzania with the MNOs.
Amazing. Okay, thank you very much indeed. You know, back to your question from Simon Chairman. This was mentioned a little bit earlier, the point about business continuity, not really planning for something that lasts this long. In your view, Janusz, has the business continuity world made a good impression of itself in Poland? In other words, has it come to the forefront in a way that's good for security, or has it overshadowed security or taken second place to security? Just your thoughts on this.
Yeah, and I think in general that the whole situation around coronavirus put us in place to test our resilience programs, which is great because not all of the companies are actually testing their plans. But now they had to test, and in some cases they failed because they were never tested before. Because there is sometimes, you know, impression that something will not happen to us, which is very false, I would say, assumption. So I believe the good company is, you know, put, you know, efforts to test regularly some situation and scenarios. So when it comes business continuity plans and you know, so guarding services, so in many cases we were left behind, and this is not only my opinion but also opinion from other colleagues from the industry, that sometimes we are not, you know, involved from the early beginning. And in some cases and in some circumstances like COVID-19, we are, very important, key player in the whole supply chain, operations, because with the very weak security, we will not make the product, and we will not make profits. So so the business also realizes now that this kind of security operations are also important, and they should be included in their BCP plans and the risk assessment or BIs and other resilient programs. So I believe now that the managements of different companies will more focus also on this kind of essential services, as was never before. Yeah.
So that suggests that moving forward, security is going to be better placed.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And this was a great occasion also for the security managers to also, show their, capabilities and experience in managing the crisis situation and business continuity plans, and not only on paper, but in reality, because I had a chance to organize many times, business continuity tabletop exercises, and where I put some very drastic scenario on table, and when I was looking on the faces of the different leaders, so some of them were shocked, and they didn't know what to do actually. And so in the real scenario where we sit together, so this even pushed me more to test it on more regular basis, because we never know what will tomorrow bring to us. So it's better to test and to be prepared.
Okay. Alfred, I guess the role of business continuity, I'm interested, Alfred, in whether this has done security, within the company, in a country where there's no problem, are you still being judged on how well you perform, and how well has security performed in the country, would you say?
Yes. First of all, maybe I should mention that I think actually security was overshadowed by the BCP, but we do and we are continuing being monitored and judged by what is going on, because again, as I said, our headquarters mention what are overseas. So we still go by what our bosses across the group, at the group level, decide. As I said, for example, we're still at a tier 4, even though, which is a high level. We're hoping to have it downgraded. But again, you can see here what I'm trying to say. The group says this, and what is reality on the ground is different. But I always say, with every bad, there's always good. What do I mean? I mean, lessons learned. So I believe out of this, if we can share lessons learned, and we can share all this across the organizations, association, security association, then maybe you can be prepared if, hopefully not, if another pandemic comes through, and we can be better equipped. But also, this will allow us to probably have a standardized, robust, periodic risk management process, which will allow us, if in case anything happens, then we can be fine. But I do agree with Janusz that security is playing second fiddle. Most plans will be made by management, and then will be brought to security that we need to fulfill. So I think also that is an issue. If we could have a representative on the table making those decisions on how to tackle Corona, I think that would be more effective.
And are you more likely to have that, Alfred, as a result of dealing with this crisis, or has it made no difference?
Well, I don't think it made any difference. We have IMT meetings. In the local perspective, security is in the local IMT, but from the group level, I don't see that. But I think hopefully that can change, because I think we're also playing second fiddle to safety. If we could be at the same level with safety. I know in other organizations, safety and security are the same thing, but we are different. So I think hopefully that changes, so we can also be up there and we can assist to make decisions, because at the end of the day, as I said, security personnel is one that is in the forefront of all this Corona pandemic. Okay,
thank you very much indeed. Janusz, Jerry Shields asked a question about regulation. This regularly crops up in our life, but I do just want to get it because an insight on it. A little bit about the regulation of private security in Poland, not too much, Janusz, just set a context for us. And to what extent has that shown to be either effective or with gaps as a consequence of dealing with this crisis? Janusz first, and I'll come to Alfred.
Yeah, that's a very good question and a tricky one. But I'll try to answer as best as I can. To be honest, the main act of security and services in Poland, of course, it's not prepared for all scenarios like coronavirus. So some kind of procedures that are put in place, especially when it comes using, I don't know, physical force. You had to adjust it, to the coronavirus situation. So because we ask ourselves about, how we can, make a physical intervention of the suspects and to keep distance at the same point, So we found that this might be a little bit tricky, and same with, searching, bodies and stuff like that. So depends on the what our business does, because we can talk about, airports, we can talk about offices, we can talk about the factories. So it differs. So I would say that security managers had to, really make their own decisions on adjusting some stuff and making sure that we are still keeping the legislation. And according to my knowledge, there were no any adjustment in the legislation itself around security services at all. So that's why we had to do our job, internally and among, security managers, just to make sure that we can still be, effective in what we do, as well as to keep the legislation barrier.
Okay, thank you very much. We've been joined by Ben. Ben, I've been explaining to, can you hear me, Ben?
Yes, and my deepest apologies, but I received a emergency call from one of the factories in the Netherlands, and I just stepped out, and I can join for the last 2 minutes. So my absolute apologies, and for everybody joining, my sincere apologies, and I will follow up as soon as possible. So sorry.
Well, we've got 15 minutes, not 2 minutes, Ben. So you've still got a little bit of time to join in. Let's very quickly. Well, you haven't met Alfred and Janusz. They're from Tanzania and from Poland. Ben's from the Netherlands. Ben, let's just get some headline thoughts. Normally we would have got your opening statement. Give us your thoughts on this issue, Ben.
The biggest thought I have on this issue, and sorry, I'm just, my head is still working on the other thing. I'm now readjusting to this. Thought leadership. So the biggest challenge we have, especially in an organization like us on supply chain and everything, with the services from security, the biggest challenge that we see is the collaboration, who is the owner of what, and especially in these kinds of situations, it's really, from a security perspective, good to be part of it, to stand up, to be a thought leader, and to work on it, if that makes sense.
Ben, from your point of view, Ben, from your point of view, what are the specific issues you've had to deal with in terms of tackling security across different countries? I mean, what are the headline problems that you face, the headline concerns that you faced?
The biggest concerns are the legislations, the laws, the local laws, the differences, a point that you mentioned also, the naming of the people. So the biggest challenge, luckily for us, we as an organization are small from a security perspective. So I cover many countries, so that makes my life easier. On the other hand, it's also much more challenging from working remote, especially in this day and age with COVID. I cannot go anywhere. I have to stay in my house, or in this case, I have to go to a factory in the Netherlands. But that's the biggest challenge, not being able to be on site anywhere in my region to support.
Yeah, okay. Michael Gibbs, let me come back to Alfred. Alfred, Michael Gibbs has got a question, and another person who's regularly involved in thought leadership. He's asking about whether, and he's directing the question to you first, Alfred, whether it's the case that you're dealing with just security-related issues inside, or whether there are things like disinformation, natural disasters, unrest. I mean, you've explained your unique situation. It's also an interesting question. Presumably, you haven't got to worry about any of those things beyond what was the case anyway. Alfred?
Yeah, well, two different things. I think from the national country perspective, really, it's nothing. Now, business as usual, everything is going on fine. But in terms of, from my company, in terms of from my organization perspective, then we, as I said, we are going by what our group level says. So if group says somebody passed away due to Corona, we need to have a stand down, then we have a stand down. If they say now we have to go to, let's say, amber level, orange, we have to abide by what they do, but it's relatively quite normal here. People are coming into the office, although at a lower scale. So I wouldn't even say that it's a calamity or anything. It's really business as usual.
It's just amazing. Yeah, no, it's the same question to you from Mike Gibbs, I guess. I mean, the point is about to what extent are you dealing with problems that have gone beyond just COVID, and have they caused you any more difficulty because you've been focused on this COVID issue? Yunus?
Yes, sure. So in my case, I'm part of the crisis management team. So any case which has crisis characterization, I'm involved in. So not only COVID keeps us busy. So when we have other situations and circumstances that require security, I would say support, I'm in. So from that perspective, in my organization, security management is quite involved in this process of making decisions, in process of keeping the business up, and making sure, from other hand, the safety of our personnel is met, as this is our key priority, as well as the food safety, which is another important things in food sector that I represent today.
Okay, Ben, have you had to deal with unrest in any countries at all? Social unrest as a consequence of COVID?
Yeah, but not only COVID, and we had a good discussion on this at the CSO roundtable. This is one of the things that is happening in the world. So the normal way of working is still going on, but we saw in many countries some more civil unrest, and we are also in the fortunate and also unfortunate position that our products are in high demand in the world, Dettol and Lysol, which create also challenges because everybody wants it. And yes, civil unrest is always the case in many countries. And to be specific, COVID related a little bit, but what we saw, and from a supply chain perspective, is during the COVID lockdowns in many countries, we did not have many challenges. But when the lockdown went down, we saw an increase in cargo related incidents and things like that, specific. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, so
it's business as usual. On the other hand, sorry.
Yeah, carry on, Ben. Carry on. I'm interested. Carry on.
Yeah. On the other hand, we're from a security perspective, we're really happy that not that many people are traveling. So that's off our plate at the moment. So we don't have to deal with travelers. So that's at least some ease. On the other hand, yeah, we see a lot of offices opening and closing and opening again because of the nature of COVID. So that's the other challenge that we face.
Yeah, interesting. So swings and roundabouts a bit. Let me move quickly to get some more questions in, if I might. To Alfred, Cosmas Mutava raises an interesting point that you spoke about, that you're enforcing social distancing and your security officers are involved. Just out of interest, Alfred, how do you conduct searches and the work on the front line if you've got a social distance? Doesn't this greatly affect the work of security officers?
Yes, it is quite complex, but I think we had put a hold on that temporarily in terms of searches right now. Unfortunately, these are trying times, and unanimously we agreed to say, no, right now we will not search until we have an easement. As I said, we've requested for an easement in our tire, and if we are able to go down a tire or two, then that means we can resume our searches.
Okay, so has that caused any other problems, the fact that you can't search? I mean, has it mattered? Has there been a consequence?
Well, and again, not really, because we have a backup of CCTV cameras. We're taking advantage of technology. So to a great extent, it's possible that employees, especially in the factories, may have a feeling that, okay, I'm still being watched. While theft may be occurring, but it's still not at a level that may be alarming, because we haven't had any tips and nothing hasn't came up yet.
Maybe we don't need to do searches then.
Say that again?
Maybe we don't need to do searches anymore.
No, I wish. We still need to do that later.
Okay. Oh, you know, similar question for you. On the front line, has the need to social distance and behave in a certain way had a negative impact on the work that you're doing?
Yes, indeed, as Alfred said, so this is quite complicated at the moment to do the searches. So what we do is also the active monitoring, using also the video analytics options, features that we have in our CCTV systems. And it's also good to mention about it, that to check with your security integrators what kind of security intelligence can be, up and running on your systems. But let's back to your question about social distancing and more, I would say, interactions with the guards and the staff. So what we do is actually we also do the physical searches, but for instance, we ask people to show their bags and stuff like that. So we try to keep the social distance and also to avoid very close contact. Because it would be too risky when it comes to potential consequences, because we put safety of our personnel as a top priority thing.
Okay, Ben, I've got a question from you. And Ben, this is an interesting point. You've just said you haven't got much travel. Have you got any travel, Ben, going on?
Yes, we have some travel for special purpose reasons. So if people need to travel, they need to have sign off from the board on this. And yes, we saw some travel, but it's really, really minimal. And most things are done remotely. The only travel that we need to have from a business perspective is that sometimes the board needs to be in the office from legal perspective, but that's only the people who live in the UK. For the rest, we have some travel, but it's really minimal. You see a little bit more now in countries where it is allowed, but our point still is no travel until authorized by senior, let's say, board members and approval of security.
But here's a point. Question from the reason I asked, Ben, is Conrad Weinhurt has asked the need to get COVID tests done to travel and the problems that cause, and whether we need a standard across Europe, Africa to make that easy. But do we need it, Ben? I mean, has it got that far?
Yes and no. I think what the first and utmost important thing is, as an organization, that's what we're also doing, is really limit travel and only in special occasions. And to make it one thing it's really difficult because measures are different in countries. So yeah, it's difficult to answer. I don't think that's possible even to do that.
Okay, interesting. Here's a question, just quick question, Ben. It's from Mike Van Drongelen. I hope I pronounced that right, Mike. And he's asked, have you heard of the inverted risk score methodology, Ben?
The what?
Inverted risk score methodology. It's a measure of a methodology that helps people manage the effects of COVID-19. It's actually about the status of countries and the color coding used. It moves beyond it. You've not heard of it? I haven't heard of it.
Yeah,
either.
yeah. No, Mike, please send me that detail. You have my email address. We use all the standard things that we have from the European CDC, the American CDC, and the World Health Organization on those. So yeah, please, Mike, send me those details. I'm not familiar with it, and I'm always keen on learning things that might help. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Well,
Van Drongelen, it is.
Drongelen, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Janus, I just want to check with you about inverted risk. Have you heard of this, Janusz?
No, I didn't.
No, it's interesting. I haven't either. So Mike's introducing a new dimension to thought leadership here. But I tell you what, we will find out about it. We will take it forward. Janusz, very quickly, let me just come to you, because one of the things I want to understand is you're managing different areas, you're managing different sites. What for you has been the main issue that COVID-19 has thrown up that will have an impact that you will have, that you've dealt with, that has improved security, that's made it better, or that has provided a longer term benefit? Janusz, question for you.
I think it's the standardization, because with many sites I have to manage. It's important to keep the same standard everywhere. Of course, we have to look from kind of geographic perspective and risk perspective, but in general, I want to make sure that we have similar standards everywhere. So people, are treated in the same way. We have the same level of understanding of the situation, as well as our procedures are the same. So there are no kind of issues that we will break the rule when making our duties. So I think it's quite important to stay, consistent in providing the services, and also to make sure that our security providers are up to the speed when it comes, hygiene regime, which is quite important because they are put on extra risk when it comes, potential infection.
And have you suffered much absence amongst security staff because of COVID illness or risk?
Not many to be honest. So it also proved that they were well prepared, and also they BCP plans and other measurements we introduced were successful, because even before the coronavirus, I had a rule to have kind of backup pool officers just in case. So they normally work from different facilities, but they are, they know our sites, so they are trained annually. So in case of need, they can be brought on my site. So in case of any extra needs, so I have some officers that are quite familiar with the site. So I found it useful also during a COVID-19 situation. Of course, the worst situation was in the beginning when the coronavirus, spreads out. So because there was a lot of question marks and not many answers. So people from my team were just, some of them were just as afraid to go on duty. So sometimes they preferred to stay at home, even losing the job, but they didn't want to put themselves on the risk. So that's why that in the beginning I said about challenging and the communication, which was quite important to spread out the message around the team members, to assure them how much we care about them and what are the safety and security measures we put in place for them.
Really interesting. Thank you very much indeed for that. Ben, final one, if I could get a comment from you, Ben, very, very quickly. Ben, have you suffered much staff absence in your company that's had a security implication at all, or not?
No, not from a security implication, no.
But you've had
No.
but you were very involved, Ben, weren't you, in managing the response to the virus within the company?
Yeah, we as corporate security are part of the crisis management team. We developed all the charts for the organization, and we are one of the sign-off part of the organization to go back to work. So we are on a daily basis a part of all crisis management teams all over the world from a COVID perspective to do the proper things as an organization. So yeah, we are part of that team and working on it. From a security perspective, we have not seen that many cases. Of course, you always have, but also as a company, we didn't because we have such tight controls, and also explain to people why it's important that we keep on producing the products that the world needs. So that's helping, on the other hand, to get the stuff rolling.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel, we've run out of time, so I'm going to have to say thank you very much indeed. You know, that issue of communication cropped up from all three of you, actually. All three of you made the point about communication. It's an issue in a crisis that seems to be reiterated. But thank you very much indeed, all three of you. And thank you very much indeed for the questions. I think we tried to cover most. I'm not sure we got all of them, but a fascinating topic. And who would have thought in Tanzania there is no problem that out in the country? It's just an amazing role Alfred's got. Okay, thank you very much indeed. I'd say very, very quickly, if you wouldn't mind, that we've got OSPAs open in South Africa until the 15th of February. Next Tuesday, the Benelux OSPAs and the ASM Congress. Listen, we've got a thought leadership in the afternoon. It's at the slightly earlier time of 2:20. So do join us in the Benelux. You can be there for that. Register for Romania on the 27th, Kenya on the 8th of December, Germany on the 15th of December, virtual award ceremonies. Look at the ospas.com to find out a bit more about those. And finally to say, just got to say about Tackling Economic Crime Awards, the TECAs, the 9th of December, 3:30. I promise you that if you thought you'd seen award ceremonies, not like this. And you're going to see people of the economic crime world in a way you would never have seen of them before. Register, thetechers.com for the Tackling Economic Crime Awards on the 9th of December. And finally, just to remind you, we'll be here all over again on Tuesday, slightly earlier time note. And next Thursday, the risk of public order. Ben was just mentioning that today. What are we dealing with the virus leaving us? 26th of November, that's next Thursday. Listen, thank you very much indeed once again to our panel. Fascinating concepts, I must have to say, fascinating insights and issues. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, the audience, for asking questions. Thank you to Hannah Miller and Christine Brooks in the background for their help. Hopefully see you at the Benelux OSPAs on Tuesday. Until then, wherever you are in the world, stay safe.
Thank you all.